Think about the last time you introduced yourself. Did you mention your job first? I know you did not just now. So, last time, did you mention your job first? And why do you think we instinctively lead with what we do rather than who we are? And what does that say about how society measures our worth?
We don't know how to start a conversation unless we know what's the profession of a person. And I believe it basically because of two things. One is we all crave context, and maybe more importantly, because of work life and so much focus on work, we have lost touch with who we are.
We build so much of our identity around what we do, and when that's taken away, or even when we choose to walk away from it, it can feel like we are starting from the scratch.
How do you know it's time to let go? It's possibly when there's a dread of showing up. You wake up in the morning and your eyes are heavy, legs feel made of tons of bricks. Sunday afternoons started to feel like drag thinking about Monday morning, and that's the cue that your mind is giving you.
Hi Ratnesh, how are you doing?
I'm good, Divya. How are you?
I am great. I never thought a trek could bring us to this conversation, but here we are, and I'm so glad to have you on the show. Welcome to Let's Talk.
Pleasure's all mine, and thank you for having me.
So, this is a space where we move beyond our job titles, KPIs, and polished LinkedIn bios to have honest conversations about the modern day workplaces and life in general. So, we talk about things that really make us us. And today's episode dives into a topic that honestly hits very close to home for a lot of us. When your job becomes your identity, who are you without your work? So that's something that I personally reflect on a lot, because in a world where our careers often define how we live, how we introduce ourselves, and I think the trickiest part is how we start seeing ourselves. So what really happens when that work shifts, disappears, or just stops simply fulfilling us the way it once did. So we are going to understand who we are beyond the role, at least try with you. And I'm really excited for this one, and I hope you are equally excited.
Yeah, totally stoked up at this conversation, and this is a topic which is very close to my heart as well.
I thought so. Okay, so before we dive into the conversation, for everyone tuning in, can we start with a quick introduction of yours?
No, this is where it gets tricky.
Maybe just a little bit, and then maybe we'll explore what it means.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Ratnesh, and the meaning of my name is ocean. So Ratna ko Swami Arthat Samudra.
Nice.
I like to trek. As you already know, we met on a trek. I like also to have really nice conversations, some deep conversations with people from different walks of life. And professionally, I'm a storyteller.
Okay, lovely. So thank you for that introduction, Ratnesh. And I think let's get into the actual conversation here. So Ratnesh, you have spent years in, I say, leadership roles in with multiple organizations that often come with high visibility and impact. Think about the last time you introduced yourself. Did you mention your job first? I know you did not just now. So last time, did you mention your job first? And why do you think we instinctively lead with what we do rather than who we are? And what does that say about how society measures our worth?
Yes, I normally start conversation. So especially when in a business setting, the conversation invariably about who you are and what you do in which kind of organization, and it has kind of become the go-to conversation starter in modern world. But I like to, as I said, I'm a storyteller. So I like to narrate an anecdote from a few years back. I was at a retreat in Cork, and during introductions, I noticed that everyone introduced themselves as, "Hi, I am so and so, and I work at such and such place, and in such and such capacity." And it struck me, why do we all feel compelled to lead with our professions? Instead of saying, okay, name is important, because although Shakespeare said otherwise, a name is important as an identifier. But after that, we don't talk about what we like or what we believe in or, the people we know. or places we have been to, it's always work, and it doesn't have to be. So I decided to go in with an experiment. When I introduced myself, I would just say my name, no job title, no company, how long I have worked, nothing. And almost immediately, people started to become curious, and some of them became uncomfortable. And one particular gentleman was so intrigued by this then that when we were finishing our retreat and saying goodbyes to each other, he came to me and say, Ratnesh, to bata do, what do you do? So they would instinctively ask, okay, so Ratnesh, what do you do? It's like saying we don't know how to start a conversation unless we know what's the profession of a person. And I believe it basically because of two things. One is we all crave context. We are creatures of habit and we like to put everything within a frame of reference. Think about a food that you are eating, in a new food that you are eating. And when you look at it or you taste it, then you kind of try to relate it with something which you already had earlier. So, for example, if you are eating the French wraps, then you would think, oh, this is something like dosa. As a social being. So we use job titles to create a mental shortcut on where to place people in our scheme of things, in our strata. And maybe more importantly, because of work life and so much focus on work, we have lost touch with who we are. And when we don't have a very strong sense of self, we fall back to easier part, which is just talking about the job titles.
Yeah. That's such a powerful point, and I think so many people feel that blur, especially in today's hustle culture. It's so automatic, it's almost automatic. And this leads me to another question that I have been meaning to ask. So, have you ever experienced a moment, maybe a career break, job loss, or a shift where you felt like you lost a part of yourself? And if yes, how did you navigate that, and what helped you rebuild your sense of self?
Actually, yes. So there have been many moments, but possibly I'll narrate one. When I moved from Wipro to Customer XPS, which was a fintech startup, it was a professional shock in a sense because moving from a very large established company like Wipro to a startup where the cultures are very different. So, for example, at Wipro, I had access to massive marketing budgets, and the moment I switched, the budget also vanished, and which meant I wasn't the big fish or Mota Asami anymore. So the event organizers, the vendors, account managers, everyone who would love to have a conversation with me anytime, they kind of suddenly vanished. And I don't fault any of them because this is how the business world is. But that's when I realized that attaching self worth to a job title is very ephemeral, or the job title, or the budget that I manage, or the size of team that I have, that is all ephemeral. And so that experience was very humbling and liberating at the same time, which meant that then I could reprioritize a lot of things and remove the self worth from external validations. What it did was this shift helped me anchor me in my values and my core beliefs rather than designation. Despite of that, the titles of others stopped impressing me as well. So, which means whenever I am having conversation, then it became more human to human conversation rather than title to title conversation. So I could nurture relationships better. I could reflect on what matters to me and to people around me, and over time, it helped me grow as a person, as a human being.
Nice. Thank you so much for sharing that so openly. And that is so unlikely of me hearing that something of that sort could also happen. This is such a raw professional experience that you just shared. And I think that's the tricky part as well. No, we build so much of our identity around what we do, and when that's taken away, or even when we choose to walk away from it, it can feel like we are starting from the scratch. So, yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yes, another thing that I would really like to talk about is real fulfillment. I don't want to sound philosophical here, but we spend so many years chasing career milestones, promotions, and external validations. Have you ever reached a professional goal only to feel empty? And how do we redefine success in a way that it actually starts feeling fulfilling, more fulfilling?
So I wouldn't say that it's complete emptiness or a complete void, but there is only so much fulfillment that a pure job can bring you. Okay, and when I say pure job, there are jobs where people go to work and then they work and then they are back. And then there are jobs where people go and then they also find meaning in what they are doing, their passion and what they do, what they want to do and what they are good at. There is a lot of overlap, right? But a pure job can do only so much. For example, so putting up a LinkedIn post on happy to share that I have become the global head of such and such. And then a lot of people like your post and so on and so forth. People who you didn't know existed, they would congratulate you. But a lot of time it's also perfunctory. So the cycle starts from there, seeking validation, and then somebody perfunctory is giving you a like, and you're sort of feeling happy about it. How many likes did your posts get? But real thing starts when that is over. So with the anecdote that I shared earlier about moving from Wipro to customer experience, there's also that no, most of the time I've been doing very well professionally. There is career growth, there are roles I enjoyed performing in, there's financial stability and validation, all of that. But at the same time, there are things which one wants to do and not able to do because of demands of the work, or sometimes the role wouldn't allow the self-expression which is needed. So then kind of I created a triage of questions to emerge out of the situation. All the work disappeared. Includes your title, your network, your professional achievements, and so on and so forth. Who would still want to be around me? And vice versa also, that who I would want to be around, irrespective of what they do. And let's say if some world entity tells me, Ratnesh, you can't work for a year, then how would you find a meaning in my day? Because a lot of the current meaning in our professional lives we derive from the getting up, getting ready, go to office, come back, spend time at doing what you love to do. I mean, doing what you are supposed to do at work and doing it really well, of course. Uh, but if all that disappeared, then how would I feel? And I mean, would I still be as sprightly? Would I still be as jolly, or would I sink into a corner where it's not bright, or I would like to curl and lie down on the bed all day? Third is, am I building a life that I enjoy living, or a life that just looks good on Instagram posts? And when I say building a life that I enjoy living is also beyond work. For example, am I able to read what I want to do? Am I able to meet people whom I want to meet? Am I able to go to places that I want to go? So these three questions kind of became a good triage, and I keep on revising them.
Do you still go back to those questions?
Yes, yes, I do.
That was so well framed. I think I'm just hooked to those three questions, Ratnesh. And I think that quiet feeling of was this it is more common than people admit actually. And I don't know if it could lead to some existential crisis as well. Yeah, I think next thing that I find equally layered is many people stay in jobs that no longer serve them. Not only because they need it financially, but because their work has become part of their identity. So, have you ever been in a situation or felt a pressure to stay in a job, not because you loved it, but because it had become a part of your identity? How does one know when it's time to let go, and how do we make peace with that decision?
I must say I'm fortunate, touch wood, to not feel trapped by a role yet. But I've definitely seen what that pressure can look like. And I'm sure we all have come across these situations. So many years ago, I used to carpool with a colleague of mine, and we did it for a couple of years. And every single morning, our ride would become a therapy session where I'm the agony aunt, and he would talk about or I'm the Dear Diary. We talk about how frustrated he was with work and how he felt like a cog in the wheel, not doing anything. His uh, his capabilities getting wasted, and actually nothing about the job excited him anymore. And every day he would still go to office, and not because he wanted to, but because he was scared that if he didn't go to office, then who would he be? What would he do? Eventually, he quit and he took a leap into something which was completely different. He got into vocational education and started working at skilling the youth, at making them skilled at vocations like turners and fitters, electricians, or the workmen. So it wasn't glamorous, of course, because once you have a title and you are flying, you are high flying jet setter versus you are now working at grassroots, working in a workshop. And of course, it didn't pay as much. But the man that I met after he made the switch, he was a completely different, evolved man. He was happier, he was lighter, and he was more alive. He never spoke about, there was no frustration that he would speak about. And that kind of taught me that sometimes we cling to roles not because they are fulfilling, but because they are possibly a safety net. They are familiar, and familiarity can be very dangerously comforting.
Yeah.
So, how do you know it's time to let go? It's possibly uh, when there's a dread of showing up. You wake up in the morning and your eyes are heavy, legs feel made of tons of bricks. Sunday afternoons started to feel like drag thinking about Monday morning. And I think that's a cue that your mind is giving you, and one has to take the cue and then work towards changing the situation.
Sunday anxiety is such a real thing. Like, nothing can be truer than that. And this man that you just referred to, no wonder why he was so mentally clogged up for 2 years and you were made to be his personal diary. Such a ground level work that he was having in his mind, and that probably made him so clogged up. And such a soulful story, I would say, to in a very crisp manner, and honestly the kind of courage we all need to tap into at some point in our lives. Now I'd like to shift gears a bit. So we are often told to bring our whole self to work, but in reality many people feel this pressure to keep their personal lives, interests and struggles hidden. What's one thing about you outside of work that you wish more people knew about you? I don't want to reveal any secrets here, but things that you are comfortable with. And why do you think we often hesitate to bring that part of ourselves forward in professional spaces?
So many people, especially in professional circles, see me as very outgoing person, but in reality, I'm very shy. I don't come across as a shy person, but I'm very shy. But that is one aspect which normally doesn't go to me to the office. I'm also adventurous. I'm a certified scuba diver and I'm a high altitude tracker. So these things kind of help me to be who I am. 'Cause it helps me to take risks, not really uh, get suddenly anxious about difficult situations and so on and so forth. But I did bring that always to work because I thought it's not relevant in the professional setting. Because in professional setting, job which I have been doing, it expects me to be very polished, very confident, and like always on, always cued in. Somebody always has a solution, somebody can resolve conflicts. So it was like a sports person. Think of Virat Kohli or Ronaldo or whoever is your favorite sports person. While they are on the field, it's their performance that matters, and nobody really cares whether they are a loving parent or they love poetry or they crack goofy jokes when they are with friends, right? So that's a kind of watertight compartment that I have maintained for some time. But then I realized it's very artificial because actually, as human beings, we are not watertight. our emotions flow across, our memories flow across. What we did earlier stays with us. What we want to do in future are with us. And then I started bringing more of me to my workplace. And it helped me to kind of create teams which are then more open with each other, lesser friction, because that kind of thing caught on. Because then I realized the formal quote unquote situation is also very artificial. It doesn't have to be. So, for example, few years back when we were during the COVID situation, and most of our work happened from home. And my son would, so one day I was on a call, and my son said, "This is not your office call." And I said, "How do you know?" He said, "Because you're laughing." You know? And that hit very hard because as we grow older, we sometimes refuse to observe, and children observe everything. And this was a very strong observation. I said, "Yeah, why can't our workplace or our office calls have laughter in it?"
That is so true, so true. And I think I've also faced these moments in my one of my past organizations. I was talking to my colleague on a Monday morning and we were chit-chatting about how our weekend was, and I think we spent 10 to 15 minutes into that conversation and my husband came and asked me, "Wasn't it your office meeting? Were you chatting with some friend?"
Yeah.
I think that is how our offices and professional spaces are usually perceived. And I can only imagine extracurriculum activities being introduced to the organizations and professional spaces. So I think that will be lovely. But before we wrap up, there was just one last question, more like a takeaway for organizations and leaders listening to this. If workplaces truly cared about their employees beyond their output, what would that look like? How can leaders and organizations create cultures where ambition thrives and people aren't made to feel like their entire value depends on their job titles and how they perform on the parameters like KPIs?
Yeah, sure. So this is also something which a lot of people think about and they talk about. There are management philosophers working on it, leadership coaches working on it. I also spend some time thinking about it. And I have my own set of how to make the work world a better place. First, I think we have to stop measuring productivity by the time spent in office. That model came from factory floor of nights when the scientific management principles came into being. And then they decided for a product to be completed, these are the number of processes to be completed, and each process takes, let's say, 30 seconds. And hence, the number of hours spent in office gives you the productivity of each person. But it's no longer true, especially in the knowledge economy. But it's one of the legacy things that have stuck with us. And if companies genuinely want to value their people, I would say they would prioritize flexibility, autonomy, and mental well being. Leaders would evaluate the employees, and leaders would be evaluated by the employees. It's both ways, not just on business metrics, but also how they are building a workplace which is safe, which is trusting. And people don't feel that they are part of a process and the only worth that they have is what is the deliverable that they are bringing. Because I believe if you do the setup right, then the output will anyway be right. So, which means we have to see people as individuals, as another human beings, and not human resources as such. Uh, because when Big Brother is watching, then everybody just wears blue overalls.
True, that's very true. And I think there are some 20-30% organizations which are actually moving in this direction, but there's still we see so many stand-up comedies around this that you need to punch in every 15 minutes. What there was a recent one, I can't recall the name of that stand-up comedian, but he was like filling the timesheet and mentioning every 15 minutes what you are doing. I was like, how can that happen in real?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be travesty.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I absolutely love this conversation, and it was such a meaningful reminder for me, and I hope for people listening to us as well, that we are so much more than our work and our story, our roles are just one chapter, not the whole story, as you also say that. So maybe, just maybe, I hope the best version of ourselves begins when we stop chasing titles and start getting to know the person behind us.
Yeah, true.
So, thank you so much. And to everyone tuning in, thank you for joining us for this episode. And if this resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear. And if you have been struggling with your own identity beyond work, know that you're not alone. Thank you again, Ratnesh. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed.
Yes, thank you, Divya. It was such a refreshing conversation, and I hope to listen to more of your podcasts.
Thank you. Thank you so